What's going on, guys? Actually, this video I'm doing out of order because I had already started filming a video working on the electrical on this on our project KFX 450, and we were making great progress and everything, and then we hit a major hiccup, and it came with the kill tether. So what we've done so far is basically, without knowing any, like, if this was a GY6 buggy, it'd be easy, but it's not. So there's a lot more wiring, and I'm not really familiar with it, so I'm kind of playing as I go along. So we got rid of the cluster with the headlight switch and everything. So we kind of, at that point, had to come up with, okay, which two wires are controlling my solenoid, which we found, and we've got that all licked and everything. I was gonna, if I can find a key switch. I got a mess going on here at the moment. But give me 1 second. We'll see if we can find the key switch in this thing somewhere. Probably hanging. Nope. There it is. All right, so here's our key switch. So you turn the key switch on, and boom, no problem. So that worked out perfectly. Then it came time for the kill tether. Now, somehow, some way, I had watched the previous video, and on the other bike, the Woods bike that we took up to Tennessee, I watched the video, and a guy had put a kill tether on, and the kill tether, now, he didn't state whether he had an open or closed system, and I've heard that term used a lot, and the reason why I'm doing this video is because I had no understanding with the kill tethers, whether I had open or closed, or what open or closed was. So I was winging this whole thing. So I ordered a Pro Armor, and I, again, didn't know whether it was open or closed. It doesn't state in the description when I bought it. And watched the video, and basically what the guy did was he grounded one leg of his kill tether to the chassis and then tied it in with the coil, okay? And I'm like, okay, I'll try that. And I did it on the other bike with this same tether. And the first time I did it, the bike was dead afterwards. I plugged the tether back in, couldn't figure it out why, and then after doing some searching, found out I blew the fuse. So I was like, okay, it's coincidence or not? Put the fuse back in, put a new fuse back in, and it seemed to work. So I was like, okay, and I clicked it back in, took it up to Tennessee. I haven't pulled it since. Now I'm afraid to. And this is why. When I first did that on this bike, I went about it the same way. And I didn't tie it into the coil. I actually traced the wire from the coil into the harness where the key switch is. And I did that on the other bike, and I was going to do it on this one because I didn't want two wires coming from the coil. It kind of looked ghetto, and you know, trying to do it the right way. So went ahead, hooked everything up. Everything worked great. Button worked great. Tether was hooked up. I pulled the tether. Bang. Plug it back in. I got nothing. So immediately now I know I pulled the fuse, and the fuse was blown. So we put another fuse in there, tried it again, bang. So I said, well, all right, somewhere, somehow, some way, I'm doing something wrong. What I'm telling you, or the way I'm telling it to you, might be wrong. I'm just gathering this. I did break out the manual. We looked in the manual. We took apart the handlebar cluster up here to figure out which wires go to the start button, and trace where this yellow-red wire in the harness that's coming from the coil that goes into the key, or that goes into that cluster harness, why it was there, what it's doing, everything else. I was under the impression, somehow, some way, I don't know if I did it wrong with the test light, thought I was searching for grounds, and I thought the key switch was giving me grounds, okay? And we've talked about this in buggy videos. Sometimes you can wire a key switch so it just throws ground to everything, or you can wire a hot where it throws hot to everything. I was under the impression that this wire is coming in from the coil, and usually coils, they get a wire from the trigger and a wire from the ground, and coil's good. GY6 application. Don't know how every other coil works. I do know, sake of example, on a Trailmaster 300 with the Lin-Hai Bog motor, that coil is an active coil, meaning that coil gets 12 volts from the battery somewhere. All right, so it's got a tab that gets 12 volts, it gets a trigger, and it gets a ground. I did put a new Dynatech coil on this, and got spark and everything, no problem, until we started messing with the tether and whatnot and started playing with different wires. So, here's what I found out. I'm gonna explain it to you because anybody who's getting into these for the first time, you're trying to figure out whether you have a closed system or an open system or whatnot, or which tether you might need. Okay, so I did look up some videos. The Rocky Mountain ATV. I started looking for a different tether. All right, I'm a WPS dealer, so I started looking through the WPS tethers. I didn't like the style tether. I had the little rubber knob that goes on the end. I was looking for one with a clip that goes in. It's just easier for me. So I was looking for a tether with a clip like the Pro Armor, and was still trying to figure out if I had open or closed system. So found a video from Rocky Mountain ATV and kind of applied it to what we found out from our handlebar cluster with our kill switch. So the way they did is they were checking continuity on the kill wires, you know, for the kill switch, but then they put up a diagram. And the diagram, I'm going to do it with my fingers. Eventually I was going to get, originally I was going to get fancy and draw it on a piece of paper and put it in video. But here's what I'm doing. I'm going to use my fingers to show you. So on a closed system, if you look at your kill switch, there are two wires running to your kill switch. If your switch is touching, all right, like these two wires are connected with that switch if you open it up, and these two wires are touching, okay, and it runs, that's a closed system. Circuit's closed, boom. If it's the opposite, and this, you know, the wire, so you have the kill switch, and when you slide the kill switch over, it separates the two wires, and these two wires are not touching, yet the machine starts up and runs, it is an open system, okay? So I had to figure out what I had. Well, first thing is, after going through with my meter and my light again, figured out that all these wires that I thought were grounds were actually 12 volt. Okay, so 12 volt is running from the key switch and going into this harness into my cluster. So it's not throwing grounds to everything, it was actually throwing hot to everything. So when I tried that trick with the tether originally and grounded it here and then tapped it into this coil wire, every time I pulled the tether, it would actually cause a dead short, blow the fuse. So it was doing, the fuse was doing, I mean, it was all working the way it's supposed to. I was just doing it backwards. So at that point, I figured out from watching these videos, opening my cluster up, figuring what I got going on, that that the KFX 450 is a closed system. In other words, the two wires on the kill switch are touching. And then when you slide the switch over, it separates those wires and opens up the circuit, and that's what kills it. So therefore, that tells me that this won't work, all right? And so what I did was, I had an order from the enemy. I got the tether from Rocky Mountain ATV, but it was the only style tether that I could find at a quick search online that was kind of like the Pro Armor that was a closed system tether. The Pro Armor I've distinguished at this point that it is an open system. And actually, Ben did some looking online and he found in a KFX 450 forum that people, because we left here Sunday when we were working on this and we were all flustered, like how's this going to work? I must have the wrong tether. So then we looked, and he looked in a KFX 450 forum and found out that people with Pro Armor were having all kinds of problems too, and similar problems, blowing the fuse, this, that. One guy says if you ground it out and hook it to the trigger wire or the crank sensor wire or something like that, it worked fine for him. But I just wanted everything plain and simple down here. I figured, let me get a different tether and try it. So what we found out is, okay, just give you a sec. I'm going to try this by myself. If not, we're going to move the camera to a tripod and get an extra set of hands. So this is my Pro Armor tether. All right. I'm going to connect these two. With my clumsy hands. All right. I'm going to try and hold all this together. Everything should be touching. And then we pull this. And when we pull this, we should have continuity. Well, there we go. All right, so that's an open system tether, meaning that when you pull this, you are actually, what we'll be doing is basically opening up the circuit. All right, so when I pull, or I'm sorry, opposite. I'm getting myself confused. So this is an open system tether. So when you pull the tether, it actually closes. In other words, when the hammer hits in the trigger, it's actually making continuity. So if you had this to ground and this to a 12 volt source, you just ground it out a 12 volt source, bang, fuse blows, okay? So we're gonna get our closed system tether now. And again, this means that I'm gonna try and stick this prong in the wire. It's easier when I have my glasses on. Tell you what, you pull the trigger and I'll hold the wires. All right, Ben is holding the camera and the trigger. So I'm gonna hold these two together. Oh, we had a problem with this clip. There we go. So right now, we haven't pulled the trigger yet. So go ahead, pull the trigger. And then boom, okay. We found that the switch, I don't know if there's something wrong with the switch, but we had to take the little trigger thing and move it around, and then it works. So I ordered more than one, so I'm gonna check this and the other one, see if the other one's a little more reliable, or if it's just in the position that this switch is. Basically, it just, I'm not sure, like I said, if it's defective or whatnot, but we're gonna figure that out. And right now I'm not concerned with that. We're just trying to explain what's going on. So when you pull that hammer, or when you pull that trigger and the hammer closes, you basically, you're cutting off continuity. All right, so it's the opposite. Whereas on the Pro Armor, when you pull the trigger and the hammer closes, you're providing continuity. All right, so if you're looking for that, you know, if you're looking to connect the two wires to kill the machine, then you have an open system, okay? If you're looking to separate when you pull the tether out, okay, and you're looking to separate the two wires or kill continuity, then you have a closed system. So what we're gonna do now is, how I'm gonna wire this is, now that I know, so this, whoops, frame's got continuity. So what I'm gonna do is, I have my coil wire here. I made my own harness, and this is for my start button and everything. So I'm gonna plug that in. This middle top wire where this yellow one or orange, black is coming out, that is gonna be connected to one leg of my new tether, okay? And then I'm gonna connect the other leg to a 12 volt source. Now I can use the same 12 volt source to tap into here where I just pulled this one from, and tap the other leg into here. And what I'm doing is basically running that tether in line to the coil wire. Apparently this coil wire gets 12 volts, or this coil gets 12 volts, all right? So, and I could be wrong about that. I mean, there could be people out there like, no, you're wrong with that. But I mean, all I know is with the cluster plugged in the way it should be stock, then I'm getting 12 volts at the coil wire when the kill switch is, you know, when it's in a run position and everything. So what I'm gonna do is run that tether in line. One leg's gonna go to a 12 volt source. Either I'm gonna tap in off this. I know that the, let's see, looking at my wires here, I wanna say that the black one is 12 volts all the time, and then the brown one gets 12 volts when I hit the starter button, okay? So what I'm gonna do is tap into 12 volt on one leg. I'm gonna tap the other one into this coil wire, and that way I've got 12 volts going through the tether to the coil, and then when I pull that out, I'm taking the 12 volts away from the coil. It should kill the machine. So this is not going to be the installation video, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing. We're already working on another video with the whole package of what we've done, and that'll all be included. But the open tether, closed tether, I've read about it, I've asked people about it, and I've never gotten a good explanation. Sometimes the best way is just to mess a bunch of stuff up and figure it out for yourself. Hell, that's how I've gone through all my life with this stuff. So I figured that might be useful. So what you're looking for, KFX 450, closed tether, and then you can either tap it in, you know, like I said, I eliminated a whole bunch of stuff with taking the cluster out, which again, we were live without a net. So we were kind of floating because everything wasn't stock anymore. So, but if you hook the tether up in line with the coil and a 12 volt that goes on with the key, should be good to go to kill it. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of explain that. I thought it was interesting, and it was interesting in me because A, I'm working on this bike, and B, that you can never get a clear answer with this kind of thing. So hopefully this clears it up a little bit. And again, I'm no expert at this. This is kind of new to me as far as working on, you know, race quads and stuff like that. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going. I'm just trying to do things my own way. I'm sure other people have taken kill switches, fancy looking kill switches, and made them into a start button and stuff. I know my YFZ, we eliminated a cluster, but that was a plug and play harness. So I was trying to wing this and do it without, there's not a whole lot of parts for KFX anymore. Whereas YFZ stuff, the market's pretty rich. So I'm hoping that this helps somebody out. I hope all my videos help somebody out, but this was interesting to me. Hopefully it gives it a better understanding. I try to dumb it down best I can because sometimes that's the easiest explanation, and I'm not that smart myself. So hopefully you like what you see. If you do, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you need parts, go to gotbuggies.com. In the meantime, thanks a lot. JD's out.